Welcome to the Dreamboat. Remember, you can join the DRI for just £30 a year. You get access to more content, including videos and discounts for our events. It's a great way of finding out more about our work, joining our dream community, and supporting this podcast. Details in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk/membership. Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Dave Billington, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also director of the Dream Research Institute. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist Laura Payne.
Hello, I'm Laura Payne, and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute. And we're called the Dreamboat because we are recording our podcast overlooking the beautiful canal barges here at Little Venice in London.
We'll be looking at dreams, talking to guest experts, and answering your questions.
Now, let's get on with the episode.
Today, we are continuing our discussion of the nature of consciousness and whether what it means to be human is being encroached upon by the heralded developments of AI. And as we've mentioned before, one of the famous philosophical tests is Descartes' argument, I think, therefore I am. But with the sophistication of thinking machines, in other words, AI or robots or maybe just highly complex algorithms, how will we define consciousness?
And what's that all to do with dreaming? Famous late 20th century sci-fi writer Philip K. Dick asked in the book, which led to the development of the film Blade Runner, do androids dream of electric sheep? In other words, what is the nature of human consciousness? It is becoming an all-important question. So here on the Dreamboat, we are wondering whether instead of I think, therefore I am, it should now be I dream, therefore I am.
Yes. Is dreaming something that's just particular to being human or even a sentient being, as there's much evidence to show that animals and insects also dream? So to discuss this subject and to talk about the intersection of technology and dreaming, we are today joined for the second time by a psychologist focusing on dream research, is Professor Kelly Bulkeley, and also Sheldon Juncker, who's a software engineer, a prolific dreamer, and a partner with Dr. Bulkeley in a new dream journaling app called Elswhere.to. Welcome, both of you.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to be with you guys.
So I understand that the Elswhere app draws on a sort of wealth of research and uses AI, artificial intelligence, to help interpret dreams.
Yeah, so we've used a handful of AI technologies as well as some collaboration and work with other dream researchers to kind of formulate various interpretation modes. So we've put together some fairly in-depth Jungian and Freudian interpretation modes, as well as some other kind of more experimental modes of interpretation, which maybe we'll have time to get into later.
Yeah, I think my biggest question is, how did you come about this? What was the idea behind it and why?
So me and several colleagues have been working on this app for several years under various names. And initially, there really wasn't this technology of AI where you could even do this. And so initially, it was kind of more, it was tracking patterns in dreams, tracking content in dreams. It wasn't so much focused on AI or interpretations because that was kind of something off in the distant future. But as we kind of started seeing all this technology develop around AI, we were like, we need to find a way to incorporate this into the app pretty quickly because it seems like something that is going to take hold very fast. And so we kind of wanted to be very proactive in learning how we could take AI and apply it to dreams. And it already seemed like it was a very good tool for that, just because the types of connections that AI can make and the way that it works is, I would say, analogous to dreaming in some ways.
And Kelly, you've been working with the Sleep and Dream database for quite a long time now. Is this an extension of that project, or is it related to it in any way?
Yeah, it's related, but I'm also very much the student in the process with Sheldon and our colleagues Dan Kennedy and Jez Quinn and Yo Yasuda working on the symbol collection that's associated with Elswhere. It's building on things that we learned with the database in terms of deep patterns in dreams, and particularly when people keep track of their dreams in a dream journal over time. So I've always been looking forward to some kind of outward facing way of providing an online dream journaling tool associated with the database. But Elswhere began as an independent operation, and we've been finding ways to work together. And the emergence of AI, not just in the interpretations, but in the image generating, has just been words are failing me. I mean, just radical in their implications. Just what we're discovering, what we're able to do, what people are doing with the app. It's really very exciting. So it's a little scary, but mostly exciting.
Just talk us through a little bit how the app works. What does if you're not using the content from the 40,000 content database, what actually does somebody do after they've downloaded the app?
Sure. Yeah. So after you've downloaded the app, you would primarily, like, the first thing you'd probably want to do is like enter a dream that you've remembered recently. And so when you enter the dream, it'll save to the system, and when it saves, it generates an AI image based on the content of the dream. So it can use like the title and the content of the dream to come up with the with all the things that'll be in the image. And there's like a variety of art styles that it can use.
So you get a funky design as well as an interpretation.
You'll get some kind of dreamy image that will hopefully be fitting to what happened in the dream, and oftentimes they're not fitting at all, which can actually be quite humorous. So there's a lot of various ways that those can be used. So you'd get the image, then when the dream saves, the image comes back. You'll also get an interpretation in whichever style of interpretation you've selected, as well as you also get a handful of insights as far as about like the people and the places and various like dream symbols that have occurred within the dream. And those are kind of also tracked across time in various charts, as well as like AI analyses, so that you can kind of see how the patterns are developing and how they're changing across different time periods.
That's of the dreamer. So that's the dreamer's time periods and whatnot. I think my next question, really, I suppose one for Kelly, is how has it already changed what you know about dreaming and any assumptions you've had about dreaming?
These new developments with Elswhere and the AI tools that are being incorporated into it, I think are changing the way I look at how we interpret dreams in a very fundamental way. And that I was ready to dismiss this. I was ready to write up the post and the articles and whatnot, saying, "Oh, this is just dream journals on steroids, or dream dictionaries, I should say, on steroids with no." I didn't think it could really capture and work with the nuance and the subtlety that we find in dreams. And I've been really surprised that, in fact, both with working with my own dreams and seeing how it plays out other people's dream experiences, and then trying it with classic dreams, so-called looking at some of Freud's published dreams using the app, some of Jung's published dreams using these tools. It's good, and it's going to get better. And so I'm an optimist about these things. I think that's going to help us in a lot of ways, but it's definitely a destabilizing realization to see, like, wow, this machine, this digital entity is like that, like in a matter of seconds, reflecting back to me very insightful and emotionally accurate thoughts about my dream. Like that's Yeah, it's a brave new world.
Yeah, I read something on where you put the Jung and the Freud dream in, and the interpretation that Elswhere came up with was actually a little bit more revealing, I thought, than what the two great masters themselves had thought about their dreams. Just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about that, because I found that very amusing.
Yeah, well, so we have, of course, like kind of like train the AI to learn those specific ways of interpreting dreams, and so it isn't just like the default AI system. Although I will say that system has been trained on quite a large collection of data from the internet, so it has at its access all of that information as far as how to interpret dreams. But no, it is surprisingly accurate, and I think we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from people as far as getting insight into dreams that no one else has been able to help them with. And it's surprising, like just as surprising as I think it was to Kelly, to see how good the AI system is. And that there are still a handful of ways that like we have of working with it and improving it. So like one thing that we discovered with some of these interpretations is that there is often a lot of missing context. So like going back to like the stuff with the Freudian interpretations, we wanted to include like waking life associations. So like within the app, there's a way to add your associations to various like characters or places within your dreams, as well as giving it like context and ability to like look at dreams within series to kind of get more context about things. Yeah, so there's like a lot of things beyond just the AI's default capabilities that can be done to create those kind of more insightful interpretations.
So, Kelly, as an example, I think the Elswhere Doctor took a Jungian interpretation of one of Freud's dreams, and actually it was amazingly accurate compared to, perhaps better than, Jung's own interpretation of the dream that these two greats shared.
Yeah, well, this was a dream that Freud shares at the end of the interpretation dreams, and it's a childhood dream, and he talks about it like, oh yeah, and we dream about parents, and things in the past, and he kind of goes on. He doesn't really make much of it. We used the Jung mode from Elswhere to try to interpret that dream, and what came back was not just a wonderful reflection on this dream of which involved his Freud's mother's dying and these figures with strange bird heads that a Jungian interpretation had a lot of fun with. But it suggested that the dream was part of the dreamer's growth and involved a confrontation with the unconscious, and that might be scary, but actually it's a good thing overall. That phrase, a confrontation with the unconscious, that's the chapter 6, I believe it is, of Memories, Dreams, Reflections, like the central moment in Jung's description of his own growth and emergence as an independent psychologist from Freud. So to slip that in, like if a student had done that, I would have said, whoa, that's a good burn on Freud, like to use a Jungian phrase interpreting that dream of Freud's. That's just a clever, but I didn't put that in. Did the AI know that? Is that just that gave me a little bit of a there's a bit of a ghost in the machine maybe happening here. Going beyond what we're putting in, more is coming out.
That's that creative element of generative AI that's coming out as well.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the really cool things about AI is just its ability to mimic the way that humans think and even the way that humans are creative. Now, I wouldn't say that it can replace humans in that regard, but when you kind of prompt it and ask it, like, be creative, be insightful, come up with interesting phrases and interesting ways of formulating things, it will do that the way that you would, the way that a human might if they're being creative.
Maybe that's a good segue then into something that we did propose to you as part of this conversation, which is, Sheldon, I think you had a dream that you were going to share for our Dream of the Week. And we talked about doing what we normally do and talking about it in the group with the humans present, and then also looking at the AI interpretation of it. Would that be okay to go into that now?
Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, so I've got a dream from a couple of nights ago, and I've got a Jungian interpretation from the Elswhere app prepared that we can go into after you guys have had some time to analyze it.
Oh no, we're pitched up against AI now, Dave.
Who will win? Humans or
Will
computers?
it make people like us redundant?
We'll find out.
No.
Well, like I've said before, I see it as more of a collaboration than a contest. I'm really curious to see what comes out of it.
Absolutely.
So, do you want to start by sharing the dream that you have, Sheldon? Just telling us a little bit about it.
Oh, sure, yeah. So yeah, a couple nights ago, I had a dream where a couple of old college friends and I had rented a little seaside cottage, and it was evening, and we went out to kind of the little back porch of this cottage by the sea, and it was a really interesting room. It was like the walls were all white; they were large windows, kind of like the standard windows with like the plus or cross patterns, and the house was right up against the sea. So as the tide came in, the tide would come in and it would enter into this kind of enclosed back porch area. And so like the waves would be inside of that room, and you could actually go surfing inside of the cottage. And so we were kind of debating based on the weather reports and the size of the waves, whether or not we should go out to sea to surf or whether we should surf in the cottage. And we, right at the end of the dream, I look over to the wall and I see that there's a big red sign, and it's a warning sign that the hosts of this cottage, because it's like an Airbnb rental, had put there. And it was like a caution. And it was saying, you can surf, but if you go out too far, there's a river that empties into the sea, and the current can pull you out. And so there was also a little phrase at the bottom of the sign which said something like "Big Sur," like California, but it wasn't quite that. It was just the "Sur" part, and there was something else that I couldn't make out.
Okay, really interesting. So the first thing that was coming up for me was wondering about the college friends and your associations with them, your relationships with them, and sort of how true to life this scenario is.
Yeah, quite close to real life. These are two really close friends that had actually just visited a couple weeks beforehand, and we had actually gotten a seaside Airbnb rental. So it was very much a real life situation, and we'd gone surfing as well.
And was it near the Big Surf? The Big Sur, sorry, not Big Surf, Big Sur.
No, it was
Sheldon?
nowhere near. It was on the Oregon coast. I have never been to Big Sur, so.
Oh, I was intrigued by the play on the word "sir," because it's obviously it's got if it's SIR rather than SUR, which is what the Big Sur is in California, but SIR is very sort of obviously masculine and has a very sort of strong masculine and authority energy, and suddenly you have this sign on the Airbnb with the Big Sur telling you that you need to be careful. So, it's like there's some sort of, here you guys, young guys are having great fun out there on the surf, but there's this authority that's sitting there that's just telling you to be a little bit more cautious, which I find quite interesting because in Jungian terms and also particularly in Freudian terms, the play on words and the alternative interpretations and sounds of them are always present. And Dave and I often talk about what we call the cosmic humor that can sometimes sit in some of the play on words. So that intrigued me. What I think the other thing I would say to you, Sheldon, what is your relationship with water? Is it sort of and the ocean? Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something, what's your relationship like with that element?
Oh, I'd say with like the ocean in that context, very positive. It, like surfing is something that I very much enjoy doing, and it's kind of I find it to be a very grounding experience as far as being like immersed in something like infinitely more vast than oneself, like almost that sense of like powerlessness, but kind of calm at the same time.
I'm intrigued by your. You mentioned powerlessness, and also the fact that this sea is slightly out of control, and that it comes inside the house, which is stable and safe, and that hasn't actually worried you until you then see the sign on the wall. I'm intrigued about all the varying interpretations of the sea, the ocean, the notion again. And here we are back to our central theme of consciousness, the flow of consciousness that the ocean often represents, and that we step into that flow. And often we are then out of control, even though we think we're surfing it and riding it successfully. You can occasionally meet these strange currents like rivers that will take you far out. And I was thinking in terms of the collective consciousness for Jung at that moment with being taken far out, and what that would be like to be sucked into the collective unconsciousness, arguably for all young egos, for young children. It is this sort of this fear of dissolution, if I'm going to use solution and water together, is a fear for the infant, the pre-verbal infant. So there's some really interesting material around consciousness and unconsciousness and super consciousness that it seems to be at play in this dream. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, you really took the words out of my mouth talking about that sense of the collective unconscious, which is the ocean is often a symbol of the collective unconscious. And I was reminded, I can't remember the title of the essay. There's an essay that Freud, in which Freud talks about speaking to a friend, talking about this vast oceanic feeling that he relates to a spiritual sensibility. And basically Freud saying, I don't relate to that at all. But the phrase really stuck with me. I was curious for you, Sheldon, about being with these friends and being inside the cottage, something enclosed, and this kind of the liminal state. It's the ocean's kind of, you can surf inside, you can surf outside, and as you're being aware of this, that you kind of see this big red sign warning you of the dangers. And I was just wondering if that relates to anything in you that feels a sense of cautiousness or a sense of the importance of a boundary, and what you're exploring with those friends, or where you are in terms of consciousness and what the shared experience is. Does that land anywhere with you?
No, it definitely does. I mean, I think something that was said earlier maybe recontextualize that current as both a, like, in the dream, it's clearly something that's I'm being cautioned against, but it also seems like a kind of invitation to go out and explore, because there's this tension of are the waves high enough that we can continue having this fun experience together as friends in the house, or do we have to go out into the kind of dangerous outdoor territory? Yeah, so that's an element that I think kind of clicked as you guys have been talking about this.
I was intrigued with that, you step into a flow on the internet, and with algorithms, there's a constant flow. And I wondered also whether you could read this being almost like an internet consciousness, that your work with AI, that is there a control, or could it sort of suck you beyond, and I'm going to use Dave's word, boundaries that are currently in place, which is, back to the theme that we kick this off with, this is the fear that AI could become uncontrollable and could, if we're going to go to the nth degree, destroy humankind as we know it. And I also like the fact that this flow comes in, it's not through the front door. In your dream, it comes very sneakily in through the back door. So it's not fully in your face. It's sort of leaking in the, behind the scenes almost. And I just How does that feel, Sheldon, out of interest?
No, I think that does make sense. I mean, I can, like, there's definitely a connection, I guess, I could make here between like the work I do with Elswhere and that dream. And I guess I couldn't say without thinking more about it for sure if it's kind of where I think the dream is going. But yeah, there's definitely an element of, trying to navigate, like, to what extent is, working with Elswhere, working with the dreams and technology, kind of like how far do I want to go with that in my life versus kind of balancing that with other things. So I'd say that's definitely like a possible connection there.
My other if we're going to stick with a Jungian theme here, and because I'm sure the app will bring it up, so I'm desperate to get in before the app does, is there is no obvious shadows here because the room is very white and the windows are large and there's lots of light. So I'm wondering where the darkness is and what might be missing in some way that is being blocked out. I don't know. Over to you, Sheldon. It's your your nighttime consciousness. It's all very daytime, and you're having the dream at night. I suppose is one way of looking at it. But there's no obvious shadow.
I don't remember if I said this. I think it was kind of darker outside. I don't remember. I think it might have been nighttime or it might have been evening.
Oh yeah, you said evening.
Yeah,
yes,
I think it was. Yeah, so there was
dark.
kind of the darkness beyond the kind of the light white interior of the house. So maybe that's kind of where the shadow is.
Yeah. Because the Jungians would be very interested. And again, I think the fact that this sea is an evening sea and is not brightly lit like the house, again has this unconscious, gives it a darker unconscious vibe in some way for me.
Yeah, actually, I've got one quick question I'm curious about. So how do you guys interpret in dreams when you can like make out some detail but then something's hidden? So like on the sign I could read the sur, the SUR, but there was something that came like before or after it that it was hidden. So how do you interpret when you can see something and you know something else is there but you can't make out the content?
For me, it's always about a question rather than an interpretation. So the question for me around that would be, is this something that relates to, like with lucid dreaming triggers, the fact that we're not using our actual senses, and so there's things are constantly in flux and constantly changing, and we can't actually focus on a particular thing. Or is this about what we don't want to see, and so we don't allow ourselves, or there's an inbuilt defense against understanding or seeing clearly what might be in that original dream. And that really, it's over to the dreamer to say, what's the feeling about it? Is it something that you're looking for but can't see, or is it something that maybe you'd rather not see?
Okay, yeah, no, that's very interesting. Yeah, because I was kind of curious, like, can there be some symbolic significance to a lack of information in that kind of context?
Well, you could run with it metaphorically, and it's lack of clarity. So, is this a dramatization or a metaphorical presentation of something that just isn't clear for you right now? Or is it something that represents an inner conflict around what maybe part of you wants to see and another of you doesn't want to see? And so you get a mixed experience.
I think I'd also look at it from a Jungian point of view. What do you associate with the big Sir yourself?
Yeah, no, I think there's a clear connection there. I think Esalen is in Big Sur, correct? I think
Yes,
that's like
is.
Not having ever been in that area, I think that's the only thing that I could possibly have associated to Big Sur, because Esalen's a place that I know. I've not been there, but it has a lot of symbolic connection to me.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I made a Freudian slip, all puns intended here at the start, because I said Big Surf and not Big Sir. And I wonder if your own consciousness or unconsciousness while dreaming is doing the same thing, that we have this big surf in the dream, but the big's taken off. So is it a little surf? What type of surf is it? I think that's also quite an interesting question.
No, I thought about that. I thought about both the Sir, S-I-R, and the surf kind of play on words. Both of those came up.
And in the end, you're riding it. So there's a control here that feels energetic and beautiful and, youthful and creative in some way. And there's a beauty in good surfing, I always think.
I really appreciate hearing everything you guys have said so far, but it's really brought the dream to life. I felt that there was something to that dream, but it has really come together, I think.
I mean, I'm quite tempted to go for the interpretation from Elswhere. I think just one thing I would say, Dave and I, as another practice from where we've been trained, use something called the waking dream technique, whereby we take the dreamer back into the dream and you get to relive the dream and change it or experience it in some way. Obviously, we're not going to do that now, but if you could, Sheldon, is there anything of that dream you would want to change or re-experience? I suppose the next question on the back of that would be why?
Yes, I think if I could go back to the dream, I think we would end it by going surfing. Whatever that means.
Big surfing.
Big surfing, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I suppose it's over to you, Sheldon, now. The big reveal.
And Kelly, have you already seen the interpretation that's coming from?
No, I have not. No. I'm very curious. Although I have been thinking, like, what will it say? And just thinking, are you guys covering? Because it does. Well, we'll see. But it's thorough. It can be very painstaking sometimes. Yeah.
All right. So this is what the Jungian mode and Elswhere has to say about that dream. In the dream presented, we observe a vivid setting at a beach house, which serves as a crucial backdrop for exploring the dreamer's psyche and individuation process. The beach house, situated where the land meets the sea, symbolizes the liminal space between the conscious, land, and the unconscious, sea. The coming and going of the tide within the outer room of the beach house could represent the natural ebb and flow of the dreamer's emotions and unconscious contents into his conscious awareness. This setting suggests a dynamic interplay between the dreamer's inner and outer worlds, highlighting a potential imbalance or the need for integration between these realms. The presence of the two friends in the dream, along with the dreamer's reliance on one of the friends to check the tides, might point towards the anima and animus archetypes. These characters could embody aspects of the dreamer's psyche that he is either integrating or struggling with, such as intuition, emotionality, or anima, and rationality or action, or animus. The dreamer's focus on the tides and surfing, both indoors and outdoors, suggests a theme of adaptation and flexibility in facing life's challenges. The red sign warning of storms and the risk of being pulled out by the current underscores the dream's anticipation of future growth and awareness of potential dangers. This warning sign might symbolize the trickster archetype, introducing an element of chaos and unpredictability that prompts the dreamer to navigate life's uncertainties with caution and awareness. The narrative structure of the dream, with its setting, exposition of a problem, the incoming tide and storm warning, and the transformative potential of surfing amidst these conditions, reflects a journey of individuation. The journey is marked by the dreamer's confrontation with and navigation through the challenges posed by the unconscious, the sea and its currents. The dream does not provide a clear resolution, leaving the outcome open-ended, which mirrors the ongoing process of individuation, where the integration of unconscious contents into consciousness is a continuous dynamic process. In conclusion, the dream appears to function as a compensatory mechanism, addressing perhaps an overly rational approach to life by emphasizing the unpredictable and emotional forces symbolized by the sea and the storm. It anticipates the dreamer's future growth of consciousness, highlighting the importance of flexibility, awareness, and integration of different aspects of the psyche. The dreamer is being called to balance his inner and outer life, to heed the warnings of the unconscious, and to embrace the transformational journey of individuation with both caution and openness to change. This dream vividly encapsulates the essence of the individuation process, urging the dreamer towards a more harmonious and integrated self. All right, I know that was a lot, but
No, wow. I don't know about you, Dave. I'm sitting here thinking, damn, I forgot to do the tick list of all the key Jungian phrases like psyche, individuation, anima, and animus. But,
well, this is what we had. This is literally, no, I'm very curious what you guys make of this, because that was part of the training, was to keep it on task, really, like, okay, for each dream, think about it. Is there any anima animus action? Is there any trickster? What's it say about individuation? Like, we could deconstruct it a little bit now and see, like, what is it looking for? And yeah, so I'm just curious. What do you guys make of that?
I think it's very good, actually. I'm sitting here kicking myself that I didn't bring in the key phrases that I know, are important for a Jungian interpretation of anything. I think we got there with the unconscious and whatnot, but I like the fact that it's very specific to the individual dreamer, and I think that's powerful, actually. Dave and I, where we've trained, we're really interested in what we call elemental psychology. So the water is often equated with emotions, and we didn't overly state that much. But it's from a Jungian point of view, it would be, and I think Dave mentioned this. Jung was obviously interested in alchemy, as we are, and so. Water is, I know I use the word dissolution, but water is transformation through solutio, through, in this case, a water dream. So there is some transformational aspects here, which would point to your form of individuation as such.
I was feeling, as you were reading it out, that the algorithm is being far more directive than I would ever dare to be, and sort of really saying it as it is this and it is that, and you should be aware of this. Where I usually find myself discussing things by means of questions, and it's really interesting to hear that as you've been training it, that you're telling it to go through all of these specific criteria, I guess, if that's not stating it too strongly. I think when I'm listening to a dream, I probably have now unconsciously lots of different criteria, not just Jungian ones as well. And it's something will occasionally just bring up a flag in a particular area that sends me down a certain path as I'm listening to a dream, or as I'm having a conversation with somebody about a dream. And what I wonder is if that's too strict, I guess, then we know that any experience is shaped by the perspective you bring to it. So we know there's this idea that people in Jungian therapy have Jungian dreams and people in Freudian therapy have Freudian dreams. So as people engage with the app, if they have it on Jungian mode, are they going to be having more Jungian dreams? Is that going to shape the experience in some way? I'd be curious to know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, this is actually something that me and my colleagues have discussed, because when we were developing the Freudian mode and we were all using it, I found that my dreams got very Freudian, and so I was like, "This isn't good." I'm more of a fan of Jung, so we had to make a Jungian mode anyway, so that could have more. Yeah, but yeah, so
the Freud mode's good too. The Freud mode, and in some ways, the Freud mode was the bigger challenge. And Sheldon, maybe you could say a bit about this, because current generations of AI that are publicly available are basically being trained with our repressions. So Sheldon, why don't you just briefly say what challenge
Yeah,
was.
so this is actually a topic that we're researching and are hoping to write a paper about, as well as this will connect to some of the stuff that we'll be presenting at the IASD, hopefully on our panel. But yeah, so it was actually quite a challenge to get the AI systems to address any of the more like sexual or violent elements of dreams. It really wanted to stay away from any of those things. And so it's really, it does not do a very good job at picking up on any kind of symbolism that might, correlate to something sexual. And since that's like a major component of Freudian interpretation, we had to put a lot of work into getting it to pick up on those kind of things, because these AI systems are designed to stay away from that and to like basically be, I'd say, very like politically correct. And so there's a lot of areas in which they don't like to go unless you give them kind of very specific training and examples of how you want them to do things. So it is fascinating to see how we've built our own systems of like suppression and repression into the AI tools that we're using, and then it's kind of reinforcing those things. Whereas the whole point of these interpretation modes is to kind of get underneath those and highlight how that works.
I was going to joke exactly the same way. You've built in a bit of repression there, but yeah, fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and when you mentioned your guys' bigger theme about AI and consciousness and the future, and we're both building our repressions, our complexes and conflicts into the systems. We're also teaching the systems exactly what our biggest conflicts and complexes are. That's what the dreams are sharing and revealing. So does that bode sort of a potential integration that will lead us farther and forward, or is that some sort of surrender and abandoning of our autonomy and our humanity? I'm a glass half full type guy, but I understand others who see it the other way.
What's your take on that, Sheldon?
I actually think that AI is quite helpful in this regard. Kind of from a different line of kind of thought with this. I think AI is a very good tool to bounce ideas off of and to like try to understand oneself in a way that is maybe easier or more comfortable than like talking to other people at times. So let's say if you have, I don't know, very personal things that you're thinking about, or you're trying to understand your own biases, but you're not ready to share those with other people. AI is actually a really good tool to like, have a conversation, kind of a dialogue where you can project yourself out onto something else. And so I think in that context, like the kind of insights that can come through in dream interpretation, it's very personal. It's very like secure in between, it's private information that's, only accessible to you. So I think it's actually a really good environment to kind of potentially help people who are interested in like understanding their own biases and those kind of topics. So I really see it as being quite a useful tool and something that we've never had anything like it before. I think it has there's a lot of possibility for it to be used for good there.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Well, I think thank you guys for coming on board. Absolutely fascinating subject. I'm left thinking that it might still be I dream, therefore I am, but with a bit of the help of AI, we might understand what we're dreaming about a bit better.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening, Kelly and Sheldon are going to be joining Laura and I, along with Deirdre Barrett and Nigel Hamilton, at the annual conference of the International Association for the Study of Dreams for a panel discussion about AI and dreaming, which we are going to record and put out as a podcast. And we're looking forward to sharing that with all of you when that comes. That'll be happening in June, so watch out for that.
So thank you to our guests, Kelly Bulkeley and Sheldon Juncker. Look forward to talking with both of you again. And from me to everybody, whatever or however you like to dream, sweet dreams.
Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams. So
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.